Okay. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Beyond the Hype, the real benefits of AI for your accountancy firm. My name is Phil Hobden. I'm the Senior Product Manager here in the UK, leading the UK product team for Silverfin. And I've got an excellent guest. And I guess we'll get to proper intros in a minute, Russell. So I don't want to jump the intro slide that we've built. So whilst people are flooding in, because I've opened the doors a bit earlier, how are you? Are you well? Let's do the typical opening of a webinar conversation. What's the weather like where you are today? Oh, I'm not sure if Russell can hear me.
Yeah,
Ah,
sorry.
perfect. That's right. Yeah, just saying. What's the weather like where you are today, Russell?
It's various different degrees of rain at the moment. It's gentle rain right now. It was harder rain a minute ago, which was going to be a potential noise issue, but it's just wet and dismal.
It's quite nice in London today. Actually, I've come up on a relatively pleasant day, which is nice because I forgot to bring an umbrella. I mean, by the way, this is definitely the high level of conversation that people are giving up their time for on a Tuesday morning. Um, good. Well, look, people are starting to come in, so we'll give it another 30 seconds, and then as soon as a few more people are in, we'll kick off with our webinar. But thank you all for joining us. Always grateful when people give time out of their day to come and listen to us talk about something. But Russell, I think AI is a topic that's close to your heart, right? I think we're going to properly get under the hood of this one today.
Absolutely, it's the in buzzword in this space at the moment, and I think if you're not looking at it, you're not paying attention, then you will definitely be left behind. So, I've been very much keen to get under the bonnet of this one since the start, and it will only increase going forward. So, I think this is a great start to a conversation.
Nice. Well, look, let's get started then, and let's start with our next slide, which nervously I'm trying to get up, but clearly the button wasn't working for me. So there we go. Right, here we go. So look, I've already given my introduction. I'm Phil Hobden, UK product lead at Silverfin. I joined Silverfin just over a month and a half ago. So I'm very new to Silverfin, but not new to the industry. I've been working with accountants and technology for around the last 10 years in a couple of different roles, but very happy to be joining the very cool team here at Silverfin. Russell, do you want to introduce yourself and give a bit of your background as well?
Absolutely. Thanks, Phil. So, yeah, Russell Frayne, Director of Transformation at Gravita. I'm also quite new into my role. Previously at a top 10 firm, dealing with software implementation and adoption throughout large practice. Moved to Gravita recently, mid-December, running out a number of transformation projects within the practice, but also how we sort of deliver technology-led services for our clients at the same time.
Fantastic. And we've come across each other a few times in our various different roles previously. So hopefully we should be able to bring this AI chat to life, which will be good. Like I said, I only joined Silverfin about a month and a half ago, but Silverfin is a product and a business I've been aware of for a lot longer than that. And I've popped a slide up that just kind of gives you a little bit of an overview of Silverfin as a business. We service over 850 accountancy firms across our different regions and different offices, and including 30% of the UK top 100. And the firm that Russell's come from and where you are now are both users of Silverfin, which is always good. We manage over 340,000 client files, and over 100 firms are using our Silverfin Assistant, which is our AI tool, which I'm sure we will chat about a bit later. And in fact, looking at that AI side, a lot of that came from when in 2021, Silverfin bought an AI and machine learning business, and we established what we now call is our AI lab. And AI is very much embedded into our software to improve data accuracy and insight. And Silverfin System was launched back in 2023 in August in the UK as an intelligent tool that spots anomalies and opportunities in client data. So I'm really excited by where AI is going to go. And if I'm being really honest, I'd already used AI this morning. I'm playing out a few new AI tools, and one of the things that we're looking at Silverfin is empowering our teams to use AI on a daily basis. So whether that's in product or outside of product, and and in the general work we're doing. So we're really trying to embed that AI piece into everything we do here at Silverfin, both in and out of our product, which is quite cool. So yeah, I was having a play around. I can't tell you what it was, but I was having a play around on a very cool tool this morning. Because if I told you, it would give something away. So but there you go. So look, we're going to start with our first poll, and I always like to have a good poll to get people going. And I think this is a really prevalent one, right? Because a lot of people think of AI as just just Chat GPT, right? So people look at it and go, oh, Chat GPT and all of this. But actually, AI is so much more than Chat GPT. So our first poll for this morning, first of three, is: are you using AI beyond Chat GPT? So are you using AI beyond Chat GPT? So if you could give us some thought process into the poll, and that will be very good. I think, when we were building these slides, we flagged a story around the accounting watchdog quizzing the Big Four on AI exam cheating. That's a thing now, Russell. People using AI to cheat on their exams. I bet my daughter, she's in year 9, right? So I bet she's already thinking, how can I use AI to help my homework?
The interesting thing there is there's actually AI to anonymize and beat Chat GPT exam cheating. So there's already an AI to mask that literally out there already.
So there's an AI to hide the AI.
Yes.
And of course, when someone gets super smart and works out that AI, they'll have to build an AI to hide the AI that's hiding the AI and so on and so on.
Exactly that.
Well, surprisingly, we've got a pretty even split, actually. And we're about 50-50, or more accurately, because a vote has just come in, 55-45. So 55% of people are saying, yes, they are using AI beyond Chat GPT, which I think is really interesting. I would have expected maybe this to be a little lower. But I guess actually, if you're dialing for a webinar about AI, maybe you are a bit more savvy on that. And on the other hand, about 48, another vote's just come into about 48% of people not using AI beyond Chat GPT. So I'm going to end that poll now. I'll share those results, so they'll be on the screen for a few seconds. You could just have a look through that. Does that surprise you, Russell? Does that tally with what you thought it would have been?
I don't think it's surprising. What I would say is in the nose there's probably an undertone of they don't realize they're using AI. So they will be experiencing AI in different guises without them probably being aware of it. So whilst the even split is there in terms of those that are saying they're not using ChatGPT, that's great. But I would say of the 48% that aren't using or don't think they're using AI, they probably are.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good point. And it's surprising, isn't it, how much AI has kind of got into our day to day. And if you look at the news, and if you're a tech fan, as I am, they're talking about Apple and their next load of software really bringing in AI and embedding it on phone. So I think, that will be consciously or unconsciously a lot higher. So that's good. By the way, I think the webinar's in for about 35-ish minutes today. I'm going to be honest and say we were running through the slides yesterday and we were like, we probably will overrun a little bit, which is fine. So if you do have to dial off on the hour, that's absolutely fine. You can get the recording. It will be sent out to you so you can pick the rest up. For those of you that are on the journey, we'll try and keep it under 45 minutes. But I think Russell's got quite a bit to add to this, which is going to be good fun. So let's go to our next slide. So a quick agenda. So what are we going to be talking about today? We're going to be asking 4 key questions. What's really at stake? And does my firm need AI? What are the smart steps forward? So how do we get started? What are my peers doing? And Russell can talk very, very much from a couple of different bigger firm perspectives on this. And what lessons can people take away? And then what's new and useful? So what tools should we be trying both in-house and maybe a little externally? So that's a little bit about our agenda today. But just to kind of, I think, to put this into context, we were having a conversation yesterday about cloud and the fact that, people are still on a cloud journey within the UK. And I think there's we look back at Xero launched in, 2012, I think. So it's pretty well established now. But in the UK, not every firm is still 100% cloud-based. And I don't think they will be for a long time, right? And you've got some thought process on this, Russell, haven't you, about that kind of cloud and AI journey and how it mirrors?
Yeah, it's quite interesting, really. So whilst we're looking at AI today, and we've been talking about efficiencies and removing manual tasks, and all of that good stuff that AI is going to deliver for us. Let's be honest, the cloud accounting sort of phase was also supposed to have done that in terms of basic automations, open banking with bank feeds, rules, that sort of thing. And whilst MTD was largely a driver as part of that journey, the fact that we're still here sort of 10 years plus talking about being first movers, early adopters in that space, I think, Will Farnell quotes about 20-25% of firms are probably, in the cloud, which means 75% have taken the optional element that they didn't want to go that route just yet. For me, AI is taking the optional element away from that. Like if you're going to be one of those sort of firms that wanted or didn't want to optionally adopt cloud accounting, they didn't want to take that step in. AI is going to take that option element around, and it will soon highlight the gulf between those firms that are tech enabled and aren't. Whereas at the moment, it's largely masked by, I suppose, chaotic servicing of clients in a less tech enabled way. So that sort of gulf isn't really there, visible at the moment. I think AI takes all of that away. So for us, for me, definitely the AI journey is one that we need to get on as early as possible. And we'll talk about how we do that in a moment.
Yeah, that's interesting. We'll come on a little bit later to kind of actual steps people need to take and what people need to consider. And we'll talk heavily around data on that, because I think data is critical. But you're right. Like it still amazes me when I talk to firms and they still aren't fully cloud enabled. And you're like, what's been the delay? What's been the, the hesitation? And partly it's client led, right? But I think sometimes you have to lead the clients. Let's be honest, some clients would still be quite happy to bring in boxes of shoeboxes of receipts if we let them, right? So we have to lead that client. But whereas MTD was always going to be seen as that driver to bring people to cloud because of delays and everything else, I think you're right. I think AI might finally be that driver, because the gulf between the haves and the have-nots is going to get much wider than it ever was on cloud, right? Like what you can do and the efficiencies and the services you can provide with AI against those that are still using desktop software or desktop compliance tools, that gulf's going to be ginormous, right?
Yeah, huge, absolutely huge. I had a conversation with a client the other day where they had multiple instances of desktop-based software, and their issue was they wanted to try and streamline their reporting. I was like, well, it's nearly impossible, because you've got, significant numbers of different entities in different desktop structures. The only way that you can do that is transition to cloud. Now they've just evolved a out-of-date way of working and just continue to scale it without thinking about breaking the way that they're running their business. But yeah, the conversations we're having them with now are much different than they were in the past. It's a case of, right, how can we, as you just mentioned, aggregate your data into one central place? How can we slice and dice that data, get true insights? And by the way, it's at a click of a button, as opposed to you spending 2.5 days every single week extracting reports and then compiling them in Excel outside and running your business that way. So it's just things like that at the moment where people accept the pain, but they don't really see that future state. And those that you show that future state vision to can't wait to go on that journey with you.
Well, look, I think we'll go to a quote from someone that kind of knows what this. Oh, it's you. There you go. It's a quote from you, Russell. So do you want to walk through this quote, right, and talk a little bit more about this? Because I think this really does highlight this whole point about what's at stake and everything else.
Yeah, and so this for me has always been the same kind of statement when cloud accounting first came out, with people's nervousness about it replacing their roles and all of this sort of stuff. And for me, like, technology is always an enabler. You've always said this as well, Phil. It should replace processes, not people. But with AI, I've kind of got my new statement, which is, if you make yourself replaceable, you can be replaced by AI in the future. And it's a scary statement, but we're in control of that destination. So where we're looking to automate our processes that we're doing manually, if we've got unstructured, unaggregated data in different places, bringing all of that together to pull from, it should give us so much more time back to have actually what our clients value, which is those added value conversations, really understand their business, their goals, their needs, their wants, as opposed to just focusing on compliance. There's still too much focus on month-end, quarter-end, year-end compliance. and we just run into that. You know, if we gave all this time back to our advisors, the question is, what would they do with that? And the answer always is better service your clients. And you can't get AI to do that. That is a people thing. So for me, it doesn't replace you. It replaces the processes that you shouldn't want to do. And the statement has always been that it was cloud accounting, it's AI now. And as these things develop, like I say, you need to step into your lane, which is be that trusted advisor. Technology can't be the trusted advisor. Only we can do that.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think when you look at this, what's at stake and this fear that AI will replace people, and I think you're actually right. If you make yourself replaceable, you will be replaced. And you look at the great history of businesses across the UK. I was laughing yesterday with my wife that I read a story that Our Price was coming back. Now, anyone that's under the age of 45 on this call will probably not know what the hell I'm talking about, but Our Price was like a pre-HMV, pre-Virgin Megastore type shop. So it's an old school record shop, right? But it was one of those things that just didn't evolve. You know, let's look at like Blockbuster is the perfect example of a business that didn't evolve. It made it evolve. It made itself replaceable, and someone came along and replaced it. Kodak, and you know, history and technology is littered with those businesses that made themselves replaceable. And actually, what came later was arguably better. But every one of those firms, every one of those businesses had the ability to evolve and drive that change rather than being driven out by that change. And I think that for me is the key thing. You can drive change or be driven out by change. And we're almost at a road now where I'm not sure that there's any other option than to drive the change or to, you know, to go backwards. So good, right? Well, look, I said there was going to be a couple of polls on this one today, and if I can just get this one up, we're going to do a second poll, and this poll is going to be about what are your views around AI? So I'm going to launch this poll now. There we go. So what is your view of AI and its impact on your job? So love it, bit nervous, scared, or confused.com. Russell, just, you know, you've come from two businesses where you were previously and where you are now. What were the mindsets in the business you've come from, the business you're at now, around AI? Were they similar? Are they diverse depending on who you're talking to?
So my both previous practical experience in the sort of AI era are both from large private equity. So as you can imagine, you get very mixed views with the different types of legacy firms that you have with the different cultures and ways of working. I would say where I currently sit, there's great appetite for it. We're starting to lean into an AI sort of embracing phase with people like yourselves, testing different platforms and ways of working. So we've got a lot of interest in that at the moment. So I'd say less resistance at the moment, but definitely in the early stages, it was. And again, you know, was covered at DAS, like the headline stuff was just drawing attention, and people never really actually read the detail below. So it was the kind of AI scaremongering that people focused on, as opposed to, you know, what we're doing is kind of these sort of webinar contents is contextualizing the messaging and saying, actually, there is plenty that you can do about it. It's not going to take your job. It's not going to take your role. So.
Yeah, and look, I think there's an interesting result. So 61% of people love it. So 61% of people on this website are loving AI. You are absolutely in the right place today. So there's 25% that's a bit nervous, and I think actually that's fair, right? Like, you should be a bit nervous by any new technology. I think that degree of trepidation in implementation means you're probably going to implement it right. And then there's a few people on the call that are confused by it and not quite sure how it's going to impact them and everything else. I think actually, if you put that out there in general to an even wider audience than the webinar, I think that would probably be reflective, right? I think, you know, people are excited by technology, but there is that slight hesitation of what it could do, and you know, God forbid, we've all seen the Terminator, right? We don't want to wake up one day with Arnie at our door shouting he'll be back or whatever, right? So there's always, I think films have a lot of, I'm a film fan, right? I think films have a lot to answer for with technology and scaring us, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think that would be indicative of the audience that we have here on an AI webinar, whereas if you went to more traditional type firms, I think that swing would be totally different. A lot more scared, a lot more nervousness. But yeah, everybody that's joined today, that would ring true for this webinar content, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. So carrying on this theme of kind of what's really at stake, we've got some statistics. We love a good statistic here, but up to 50% of activities carried out by accountants have the potential to be automated using current technologies. 50%. And then 40% increase in productivity. Accenture predicts that AI could help accountancy firms boost productivity by 40% by 2034. That's a huge number, right? Like in an industry that is beset with a people challenge. And I still think today, you know, we're talking about technology, but one of the biggest challenges in accounting is still people, right? And getting the right people to service clients and making sure that you can replace headcount. I think, you know, the impact of AI could clearly be huge. And on the side of this graph, we've got a little bit about 6 areas of where AI, when implemented effectively, can affect your accounting firm's market position. So clearly capacity and efficiency, and that's borne out in those statistics. Consistency, accuracy, and quality. We're humans, right? We make a mistake. And I think that's one of the things people saw with the move from Excel into a cloud accounting and other areas, that some of that human error that you got with Excel is taken out. Customer service, talent, attraction and retention, competitiveness and financial performance. We'll dig into a couple of those along the way, but Russell, I think this next one is definitely, I think, you know, what would you do if you had more time in your firm? You know, would you go out riding an AI created unicorn is the big question. But genuinely, right, like if AI is going to make 40% capacity in a practice, what can you do with that? And when I was researching this, one of my colleagues, Ken, wrote this great blog around AI, and he reminded me of that awesome Homer Simpson episode where he automates the tasks in his office with the water bird, and it's just doink. Now, you know, doesn't work out well for Homer, but it never does. For us, it's going to be completely different. But it's a good analogy, right? Like, it's that boring task of pressing a button every X amount of time. Well, AI can press that button. So what are you going to do with your extra time, Russell?
I mean, this is part of the question why people are nervous. It is they don't know how to fill their time. But I think I never got into accountancy to do manual repetitive tasks. When I did that as a junior, I literally pulled my hair out. Giving us time back should enable us, not to have to put down, you know, additional hours on our timesheet, you know, pad the day out for stuff that we know as a profession, we do this, right? Timesheet is one of the biggest problems that we have. You take that part of that problem away and you actually give time back to then go, actually, we can speak to our client more often. At the moment, the timesheet and the cost budget dictate how many contact points you have with your client. And how many times have you been in office and you see eyes roll when a client picks the phone up to you to ask a question? Because you're like, can I charge this? Is it taking me away from the current job that I'm doing? I'm running over budget on that one. Where do I put the time? How do I bill it? So the fact that you can give more time back to have contact points with your client, understand them better, are things going the right way, ask just simple questions of their business, I would absolutely be filling my diary with that type of task. Added value and advisory is the big thing. So once you're having those contacts with your clients and you've got more data to actually pull from, actually spotting opportunities for your client before they become things is absolutely key as well. So that's also where I'll be focusing a lot of my time. And just because we all get bored and there's always areas that we'd like to pivot and move into, like I'm hoping to see lots of different types of firm activity in the future where they either double down into different niches or they start pivoting into new areas in service delivery. And then, you know, the worry is that AI ends up giving us vanilla accountancy practices just doing the same thing. I see it the total opposite. We've got so much opportunity to pivot in lots of different areas that you'll see this whole new playing field of different accounting practices. So for me, capacity given back is only a good thing. We're not throwing bodies at the problem, we're throwing technology, and they're the 3 areas that I would go to.
And I think you're absolutely right. That ability, like advisory has been a buzzword since when I came in 10 years ago, and it was almost a threat, right? You have to do advisory work. Compliance is dying. Compliance is never dying. Compliance will always be there, and rightly so, right? It's a hugely important part of what accountant does. But I think actually, where I think what advisory is the blending of compliance with actual support and advice around your business. So this is what you've done, and we've helped you be compliant and do all of that. And this is what you can do, and this is how we can help you, and this is what we can do to change that number next year. So taking that data from the compliance, making it more human with reporting and analytics, and then delivering it in a way that actually will inspire business owners to do more. Because I always say this, and we said this a lot during the pandemic. And by the way, yeah, if anyone had pandemic on your webinar bingo card, now is a good time to tick it off. But we said this during the pandemic, right? Accountants were the superheroes for businesses. They were helping them. Businesses didn't know what was going on. They were phoning their accountant and going, well, what do I do about this? And how do I do furlough and all of this? And accountants became the lifeline for businesses. And after COVID, a lot of firms just went back to doing what they did before. And that was such a shame for me, because I thought that maybe we kind of cracked that advice and support area. And I think a lot of firms went back. So I absolutely think that is huge. And that idea to pivot and do more is great. So I guess the answer is, so we've done a little bit of blue sky thinking, right, about kind of what AI could do and why we need it and why it's going to be important. So what are the steps that people need to take to start getting ready? And we've broken it down to 7 steps. Kind of, I guess you've gone for a few of these steps yourself, right? The prepare your company mindset and staff is an interesting one. How do you prepare a business in the size that you've worked in for change? It must be quite complicated, right?
I think change is always complicated, and it's not given the sort of focus that it really deserves. And it's, you know, I've spent a long time in this space, from a small local practice all the way through to large private equity. And, you know, the days of throw something at the business and hope it sticks is long gone. And, you know, the company mindset shift comes, you know, too often top down. But for me, I've got another quote that I also found recently, which is, all transformation happens from the neck up, which means it's not technology. It is literally all in the head. It's that change of mindset. And that's always the first hurdle. So for me, it is building a top-down, bottom-up approach. So whilst top-down gives you the strategic vision, you know, if you want to be a tech-enabled, tech-led type firm, but you need to get the hearts, the mind, the buy-in of those from the bottom up. And it's bringing the harmony between the two and the balance. And all what we just talked about, understanding it's not your jobs at risk. We're trying to pivot, change the processes, give you jobs and tasks that you want to do, not the ones that you don't want and the clients don't value anyway. And it's building that sort of focus group, you know, the buzzwords, champions, advocacy teams, all of that sort of stuff is very much the front end. And I spend a lot of time, you know, we'll talk maybe about in a moment about the Silverfin rollout for us. And I spent a lot of time at the front end with the hearts and minds, the understanding about why Silverfin, why the change, what does it mean for you, and future state. So getting people's heads and minds and hearts brought into the process is fundamental of any of that change management.
Yeah, and look, we could talk about each one of these and go into detail. We could probably do a webinar around just this part of it, right? And maybe actually that's a good follow-up for us to do, is actually dive really deep into these stages. All of these 7 points are available in our white paper, and I'll bring up a code at the end, and I'm sure when we do the follow-up of the webinar afterwards, we'll share that link. But all of these points are in that white paper, so I'm not going to dive deep onto every one. I know data is a key one for you, and bringing the data together. And it's probably, while I go on to the next slide, it's probably worth you going a little bit into that data point and just kind of talking a bit more about that.
Yeah, I think so. So for me, in terms of with the 7, I summarized them largely in 4 buckets anyway, which is data. So first and foremost, get your data quality ready, where it sits, how it's being stored, and how you can access it. Partner with, you know, firms like Silverfin and other vendors that are investing in an AI roadmap. Upskilling your staff to make sure that they leverage AI and how they can do that going forward, and then just start to introduce it into your tech stack. So that overall, in terms of the whole data piece, is really how you enable that. So clean up your data. The reason why I very much like Silverfin in the firms where we've embedded it previously was it becomes that unstructured data aggregator. And it kind of pulls everything together in one space where we do our day job. So
Yeah.
when we're doing working papers and accounts, it's pulling data from multiple different sources in different formats, different chart of accounts, and it's unifying that in one place. Now, all of a sudden, you can then pull so much more insight from a unified data set, as opposed to if I just went to go to Xero and pull a back-end API out of there, for example, 1,000 clients could have 1,000 different charts of accounts and different structure. So again, it's taking the customization out of it and allowing us to really dig deeper into the insight, as opposed to just looking at lots of different data sources and then trying to aggregate them elsewhere.
Yeah, I think that data aggregation, the word you said, which clearly I can't say right now, is so key. Because you're right, there are a million different sources there, and we've become so fragmented. We've got, back in the old days, it was really easy, right? You'd have Excel, you'd have Sage or some kind of desktop software, and then that was pretty much it, right? A little bit of compliance tools in the middle. But we've become so fragmented with all the different data and all the different ins and outs that having somewhere to bring that together and then standardize that process to then be able to have that standardized way of working across a firm. And especially with the PE move within the industry, right? That standardization, being able to plug firms in, plug businesses into what you do, is so much easier than going, going around, we've got to now transfer to cloud, and then we've got to transfer your bookkeeping software, we've got to transfer this, I would argue that firms that have that more standardized data approach are far more attractive to a buyer than those that are, more fragmented and pulled apart. Building on your quote earlier, Russell, this is something I think you like, I like as well. AI will not replace humans, but software with AI will replace software without AI, and humans with AI will replace humans without AI. I think that kind of says it all, right? We feared change. History is a fear of change, right? We feared the cloud, but we feared the same as streaming. Back in the day, again, showing my age, people were scared that VHS was going to kill the cinema, and it never did, right? And those who adapt and change are the ones that prosper. So I want to dive a little bit into your experience with Silverfin and the journey you've been on and how you've done that, and talk a little bit more about how that's looked for you. So do you want to I know you've dug a little bit into that standardized data, but what are the key points where you utilizing AI and how that's working for you and making changes?
Yeah, so on that Silverfin journey, the standardization piece is key, and you hit the nail on the head with the private equity side of things. Absolutely. Standardization is one of the top priorities. That gives you consistency and scalability. And having a product that sort of aggregates in the middle is absolutely key. What it allows you to do is be sort of front-end agnostic with your client base as well. And, clients have different needs and wants. So you can go out and be, service specific for those clients and have custom chart accounts, custom structures, whatever means value to them. Whereas the bit that I like about Silverfin is the rigidity of the chart of account structure and the mapping. And you guys don't bend over that easy in terms of when we say, could we just have this one? Could we have that? It's like, no, not really, unless there's a really specific need and want for that. So that for me is absolutely key. And on the sort of the AI side was part of the reason for partnering with Silverfin was obviously I knew about the acquisition of the AI lab. Where that's going. I've spoken to numerous within within Silverfin as well about where you're going, what the roadmap looks like with AI. And for me, it's getting on that journey as soon as possible to then absolutely take a full advantage of the benefits as they evolve and deliver over time. So much so that pre-joining Gravatar, we were going through the Silverfin commercials, and Silverfin Assistant was one of the things that I said, absolutely keep on the list of things that we're going to purchase, because for me, it absolutely felt right and it sets us up to succeed. And as soon as I've come in, we've taken Silverfin Assistant as part of our training rollout. Everybody gets trained on it. We have regular catch-ups internally. I ask about the good, the bad, and the ugly in terms of what it's surfacing. And then we feed that back to Silverfin as well. So very simple things like the fact that Silverfin Assistant on screen now is in the platform at a working template level is huge. Before it was kind of hidden. And feedback has now, brought about those changes. So literally, as you're doing your day job, you can have an assistant prompt, which you can then click on to the side of the screen. It will tell you what it's looked for, why it's looked for it, what it's telling you. It'll give you some full background information as well. So great for training. We use offshore in India quite a bit as well. So like they get consistent messaging around what these things are surfacing and why it's being surfaced. They can ask better questions in the UK as well. And we just get a more complete file. Now, that is just the start. Like I'm more excited about where this can go, because bringing the data into one place, having it structured, and let's be honest, the transactional level data that we're bringing into the platform, like the opportunity is endless in terms of the insights and the sort of automation that we could potentially surface in the future. So for me, it was get in there early, take a full advantage, get it embedded into the mindset of the teams, and then take the full advantage as this stuff develops in the future.
Yeah, and look, I flashed up a slide about Silverfin AI and Silverfin Assistant. And look, obviously we've talked broadly around AI, and for sure, for me, this is one of the things that attracted me to this business is that the AI is not an add-on, it's not something that sits on the side, it's embedded into the platform. And some of the stuff that I've seen and some of the stuff I've seen that the team are working on is really cool. But I don't want to just talk about this from a perspective of Silverfin and trying to sell why Silverfin Assistant is great, right? In terms of an impact for you as a firm, you talk about training. I think that's something, like, we've got about 5 minutes left. So I can't dig in too much, but I'd like to just get a little bit about how you're using the AI to train staff and that consistency. Because I think that's something that people overlook, is getting everyone up to speed and doing it in a consistent way.
Yeah, I think too much training is delivered by outdated or well-versed accountants training how they were trained. I was trained this way, this is how I pass my knowledge down to the next generation. I think part of that is what's leading to this sort of recruitment issue in accounting, is that the profession is seemed a bit boring, a bit outdated.
It's not sexy, right? It's not
exactly
sexy. Like, if you look at like, I had this conversation with a firm down in Sussex, and they were like, if you go to the colleges, they're still training people on Sage Desktop. Now, no knock on that software at all, but it's a desktop product in a cloud-based world.
Yeah,
it's like teaching people to do engineering, car mechanics on a 1920s Ford. Yeah, some of the principles are the same, but you take it to modern technology and it's just not the same.
Exactly, and it's bonkers. And I think this is part of this shift in the profession, is that if we can start having firms embracing AI and bringing it as part of their core and using it to enable and train staff, it just really helps with that sort of, from my perspective, like that sort of interest in your firm and the profession, and it should start getting us moving forward a lot faster.
By the way, I'm not ending the webinar, but what I wanted to do was give people a link to get to the white paper, right? Because I think a lot of what we've talked about today, especially around those 7 steps on that white paper, I think it's really important to kind of take that learning. Because one of the things around AI, and I think, Russell, you're a big proponent of this as well, is like, do your research, right? Find out what's out there, find out what's coming, and really kind of look at how that's going to impact you, but also look at the trends. Go to talks if you're heading to Accountex in a couple of weeks, I think. Yeah, a couple of weeks. Like, I can guarantee you a load of talks in there will be about how AI will impact your firm and how AI will change the way you're doing things in a positive way. So rather than defaulting to the standard, let's go and listen to the talk on MTD, which everyone does, right? It's always the busiest talk. Go and listen to talks on AI and see how that is changing, implementing, and in areas like training and like everything else, because I think that's really important.
Yeah, 100%. I can't emphasize that enough. Like, I took a team to DAS a few weeks ago and made sure that they were spread out across different talks, and they came back with lots of different perspectives on AI. Whereas, you go to an MTD talk, it is, the MTD, it's sort of facts and figures, right? And rollout, and doesn't it happen? With AI, there's so much that can happen. There's so many different contexts. And I think once people do embrace that and they start to understand it better, the nervousness percentage will start to go down, and then people then jump up to the embracing level.
Yeah, I agree. Look, I'm gonna launch our final poll, and it's just to find out about everyone that's on the webinar. Thank you for attending. Really great to have you here. And just an option to say, look, would you like some more information about Silverfin? I know we've got some existing users on here, which is great. Some people looking at us. So just please just have a go. And if you're interested, yeah, we'll reach out and kind of have those conversations, and you can see how Silverfin Assistant could potentially benefit your firm. Russell, look, thank you as always. It's always brilliant to talk to you, and I'm really struggling today because we've got 40 minutes in a subject that we could have taken 5 hours on. But really thanks everyone for listening. Russell, anything else you want to add just at the end around AI and kind of what you're looking at moving forward?
So the last thing for us really, which is what we're looking at. So we're embracing the business at the moment. So we're getting people from the business to tell us where they think AI would make the biggest impact to them in their day job. So I think too many people look top down in terms of an AI approach, whereas you really do need to dig under the bonnet and get people doing the day job to really identify where the big wins are. So that's where we're looking at the moment in terms of where we go next with using AI in the firm.
Perfect. And are you talking at Accountex?
Day 2, I believe.
Excellent. And is that about AI?
No, AppStacks and App Advisory.
Oh, okay. Well,
my favourite subject.
Yeah, it's like the second best topic, right? Like and that's what you're going to do with your capacity. You're going to free up that capacity with AI, and then it's going to give you the ability to open up some of those other cool apps that sit within the technology space and the app stack to be able to go out there and do more and deliver a better service to your clients. So I think that's great. I'm there day one talking about something nothing to do with AI, but social media, which is my other passion, as you well know. Russell, thank you so much for your time today. If people want to connect with you, I'm sure you're open to that on LinkedIn, and you're on LinkedIn.
Absolutely.
And if you thank you for everyone that kind of asked for more information about Silverfin. We'll reach out to you and do that. And sorry we haven't had time to take questions, but if you would like to ask any questions around AI, around technology, please send them to me. My email address is phil.hobden@silverfin.com, and I'll pass them on to Russell or to our internal team, and we'll be more than happy to pop back out and have that conversation with you. So once again, thank you very much, Russell, for joining us on this webinar. Thank you everyone for attending, and we look forward to speaking to you again in the near future.